Hello, what's up? My name is Philly, I'm from Germany and I traveled Asia with my boyfriend for 4 months now. And I traveled Japan for 1 month and we had a 2-week long Hokkaido trip there, and I filmed the whole process, and now I want to introduce you to our travel itinerary. So if you're interested, keep watching! So I recommend Hokkaido if you want to travel Japan in summer. Just so you know, Japan is super hot. The area around Tokyo and stuff gets above like 40 degrees. It's humid, people get heat stroke. It's also amazing if you want to see some nature, a lot of rural areas. It's not super touristy. I think a lot of Japanese people go there for tourism. Some tips in advance before I start on our road trip. Number 1, book your hotels in advance. Like I said, we traveled for 4 months now, and normally I'm always like, be spontaneous, you know, listen to other people, try something new. You never know which area you want to go next. But I think Hokkaido is super expensive in high season. I just realized that it's going to be that expensive 2 weeks before we came there. And then I tried to book as many hotels as possible in advance, just so we save some money. And I think we had like, if you watch my vlogs, you will see that one of the hotels cancelled on us, and then we had to drive 300 kilometers for the next hotel that was affordable, because of course we did not want it to go over budget for a shitty hotel. Okay, tip number 2, get your international driver license. I'm from Germany, I can drive almost everywhere with my international driver license. It's super easy to get, but for Japan I needed like a translation, a Japanese translation of my driver license, and yeah, I just had to get it, and keep that in mind. Point number 3, the traffic is on the left-hand side. I'm from Germany, we drive on the right side. I know a lot of countries do. I felt really uncomfortable with it. Luckily, my boyfriend studied in the UK, where they also drive on the other side. We started our road trip in Sapporo, which is the capital of Hokkaido, and it's the easiest to fly into, and this is also where we picked up our car. But we stayed there 3 days before we picked it up, just because we wanted to do a little bit of exploring, and I think it's great. We were really lucky. There was a big beer festival there when we went to Sapporo, and they also have a lot of museums, a lot of history, a beautiful city center, so it's totally worth exploring. And when we picked up our car, we directly left for a second stop. Furano was maybe one of my favorite parts of the road trip, because it's really close to Sapporo. I think it's like 2 hours by car, but it's a really scenic drive, and we were really lucky. We had beautiful weather, and Furano is known for its lavender fields. We stayed 2 days in Furano just because we started our day in Sapporo, and we had some time, it took us some time to drive there, and I think we arrived in the afternoon. But we stayed 2 nights in Furano. We did half a day for 2 fields, and then we used the whole day for some other fields. Our third stop was Asahikawa, and actually I think the most beautiful thing is the way from Furano to Asahikawa. There's so many things to do. So we went to the Blue Pond. It's a pond that has really, really blue water. I think there was some accident in the 80s which made the water this way. You can also see some beautiful waterfalls, and the nature that goes from Furano to Asahikawa is super beautiful, and I think they also use this area for a lot of advertisements in Japan. So you see a lot of fancy farms, they have a lot of flower parks as well. We just didn't go to one because we saw so many in Furano. But yeah, this 1 hour drive can be stretched into a lot of destinations. Then in Asahikawa we stayed 2 nights, which I don't think is necessary. 1 night would be enough, but we just like to stay longer because we don't want to pack and unpack so fast. It's a little bit exhausting. You can totally spend a day in Asahikawa as well. So the one day that we had, we just used to go to the Asahikawa Koen, and they have a lot of museums which are really interesting in my opinion. We went to the sake tasting museum, which was kind of fun, and then we just looked at a lot of attractions that were around there because we had a car and we just wanted to explore. And then we found some great viewpoints. We found rice field art. Another point that makes Asahikawa super interesting is actually that it's super close to Shiretoko National Park. So I think you can decide between a lot of options here. So you can stay in Asahikawa, and I think it's like 20 or 30 minutes to the Daisetsuzan National Park. Daisetsuzan, the national park, is actually a really big national park. I think they have like 13 big mountain peaks or something. And you can decide if you're a hardcore hiker, I think you can do like a several day hike there. We just decided to do the Kurodake mountain. So we didn't even climb the whole way. We just drove up there, and then you can do like a summit hike, which took us 3.5 hours up and then down a little bit less. And let's go to our 5th stop, which was Shari. And you will see that on the map, but it was a really long drive. I think it's like 3 or 4 hours by car, and we just did that because our hotel cancelled on us. So I actually booked a hotel in Abashiri, but, and this is a warning, there are a lot of festivals in summer in Japan, and in Abashiri there was like a sailing festival or something, and everything was booked out. It was super crazy, and I just didn't know that in advance. Originally I wanted to stay in Abashiri, but I also would recommend maybe staying at Saroma Lake and then just use one day for a little bit more driving. And the drive is super beautiful, and you can, yeah, I don't know, maybe do a hike on the way like we did. So there's lots you can do on the way there. Shari is a really small city, but it's super cool if you want to do some exploring around it, if you want to see the nature. It's close to the coast, so of course we did one evening at the beach. It's just not that good for swimming. I think they do a lot of fishing there. We went to see the different lakes. We went to Lake Mashu, we went to Kusharo Lake. We we got some great dinner. They're really famous for seafood there, so you should definitely check that out. There are also a lot of volcanoes, and we actually did a hike near Mount Iosan. Mount Iosan is an active volcano which still has a lot of sulfur stuff. Okay, let's get to Shiretoko National Park. One part that I'm super excited about, was one of the greatest things that we actually did on our whole road trip, but we stayed 4 nights, and I don't think we needed to stay that long, and I will tell you now why it was like that. They have a really high bear population, which is apparently super active in July and August. That means in a lot of hikes they saw bears. If you're not comfortable with that, don't go. This also leads to my other point. Japanese people are really careful, and if there's a bear sighting, hikes will be closed down. So if you go there and you only plan one day, and the only hike that you looked or searched for is closed, you will be really disappointed, and that happened to us. Let's get to my next point. High season is in summer in Hokkaido and also in Shiretoko National Park. That means they also try to boost the tourist section, which I totally understand, but a lot of hikes can only be done with a guide. So in some parts I understand, because all of the guides, they are experienced with bears, they know what to do and they know how to prevent meeting bears, and it's also fun because they can show you some incredible nature. But we were a little bit disappointed because we wanted to do some hikes by ourselves, and we prepared ourselves for it, and we still had to book a guide, and in some parts you weren't even allowed to go without a guide. And we were actually there from end of July until the 1st of August. And on the 1st of August you can hike, for example, the Shiretoko 5-leg trail by yourself. And that's what we did, because we were like, okay, we don't want to pay like 60 euros per person just to hike a hike that we can hike one day later by ourselves. And that leads directly to my next point. So I think Shiretoko National Park is great. It has a lot of nature, but the hikes are not super diverse, I think, because they have a lot of really difficult hikes. So for example, if you want to hike Mount Rausu, which is the biggest mountain there, it takes 5 hours one way. So it's like a full day trip, and you can also do like a summit hike, which takes a lot of days. I like hiking, but I think I would prefer a hike that maybe takes 6 to 7 hours in total. And not 10 to 12, because normally if you're not super fit you may take a longer time and stuff like that, and I just didn't feel comfortable to do the long hikes in Shiretoko National Park with the bears and everything. So let's come to the good part. What is Shiretoko National Park good for? So of course it's good for its nature and its animal, and they have a lot of cruises actually. So you can take a cruise from Utoro which is the west side, and it's a really nice nature cruise where you can just see the parts that you can't reach by foot, because in a lot of areas you're not allowed to go because they take the protection of the animals really strict. Another thing that was super exciting in Shiretoko National Park was our whale cruise in Raosu, and it was so amazing. We saw a lot of whales, we saw orcas, we saw porpoises, and we saw a sperm whale, which was super great. We also saw so many animals. We saw a bear, luckily when we were sitting in our car. Then we saw so many foxes, we saw a lot of deer, and yeah, it just felt like a Disney movie, to be honest, because everywhere you looked there were deer. My final words to Shiretoko National Park is that we really enjoyed our time there, but we stayed there for 4 nights, which is pretty long, and we couldn't do as much to do. There are a few hikes that you can do, but I think most of them you can even do in one hike because they're pretty short. A lot of things you can see from your car, so you can just drive to the different points if you want to explore the area, and most of the cruises take 2 hours. So I think it would have been enough to stay there for 2 days. Ooh. Okay, let's get to our 7th stop, Lake Akan, which is a big, beautiful lake, volcanic lake that is surrounded by mountains, and you can do cruises there to explore the nature. You also have the Ainu village there. The Ainu are the indigenous people of Hokkaido, and we also saw a Ainu dance, which is super popular there. It's also known for its hot springs. I think most areas that we went to in Hokkaido are known for hot springs, since there's a lot of volcanic activities, and we stayed in a lot of ryokans. Ryokans are traditional Japanese hotels that have hot springs included. For the last part of our journey, we actually had to get back to Sapporo to bring back our car. So we just did 2 short stops, one in Obihiro, which was super nice. It's a cute little scenic town where we saw a summer festival, which was by accident, but it was super fun. There were a lot of food stalls. And then we did one more stop in Chitose, which is actually the city where the airport in Sapporo is. Found a really cute cabin there, and we just stayed there for 1 night because we wanted to clean out our car, clean out our backpacks, because we knew we wanted to continue traveling from that point on. So we had 1 night in Chitose just to relax and unwind, and then we dropped off our car in Sapporo, and that was the end of our road trip.